MapDad here. So, as this is the first season of Empty Nesting, MapDad and Bride went to Northern California for a big family wedding. It was the first post-COVID adventure on the West Coast. Before the nuptials, we took in a ball game at Oracle Park, home of the San Francisco Giants, in an area exploding with new development. With family living down the peninsula, we didn't stay in the city, but by the airport at the Hyatt Regency, where we got a great rate of about $189 a night, including tax. Now, there are two Hyatts by the airport, this the less expensive one. The hotel was a mere 5-minute drive from downtown Burlingame, which has a ton of great restaurants. Italian fine dining can be had at Stella Alpina Osteria, but Burlingame Avenue has a host of good casual places. I recommend both Copenhagen Bakery and Grapevine. Park and Howard is also good. Many places have outdoor dining, which makes it a bitch to park, but a pleasure to sit outside. Now, the wedding was going to be up in the Napa Valley, so we crossed the Golden Gate and headed north. Our first stop was in Santa Rosa at the Charles Schulz Museum. As a big fan of Peanuts as a kid, I was excited to see what was on display. And while there were some original comic strips and a mock-up of what Schultz's drawing studio looked like, I wouldn't call it a must-do. It was neat to see the ice rink next to the museum Schultz spearheaded. And from Santa Rosa, it was a winding path to Calistoga, where we would spend the next 5 nights. It has a Western-type feel in town. There are a handful of super fancy hotels at the city's edges that charge $1,000 and more per night. But MapDad decided to go a little more economical and booked the Cottage Grove Inn for about $400 per night. Not cheap by any means, but a unique experience of having your own little cottage with a hot tub and within a 5-minute walk to town. Now, that was an advantage when we decided to do laundry at the laundromat. And when I wanted a sandwich, the prepared foods at the CalMart supermarket were top-notch for both breakfast and lunch. I even took in the Sharpstein Museum, named for a former Disney animator who had collected items of the area's history. Sam Brannan founded Calistoga and built the original hot springs resort there. His cottage is now a small hotel with a good coffee and breakfast spot inside. A hearty breakfast or lunch can be had at the Cafe Sarafornia. I took one morning and did some hiking in the local state park. Incredibly peaceful, as I was the only person on some of the trails. And while it was chilly when I started, the sun became very strong, and I was grateful for the shade that was provided in some cases, though you could see places that had been scarred from recent wildfires. If you're in the Napa Valley, you're there to pretty much eat and drink wine, right? So we had a few fine restaurants and a big winery. Food-wise, the best meal we had was at a place called Farmstead in St. Helena. The tomatoes and the salad were, without question, the best tomatoes I've had in my life. If you could guarantee me every tomato I ate would taste like that, I'd eat a tomato a day. My trout entree, delicious as well. And while I tried to get a reservation at the world-renowned French Laundry, we did score a table at Thomas Keller's more casual restaurant, Bouchon, in Yountville. It's his take on a French bistro, so I ordered a traditional steak frites, which, while good, came out way too rare for my liking. Now, it was fine after they cooked it a bit more, and in a classy move, they didn't charge me for the entree at all. As for wine tasting, it was harvest season, so many places were full, but we went to Stag's Leap Winery for a tour and tasting. Stag's Leap claim to fame is that back in 1976, it won the Judgment of Paris tasting and put American wines on the map. Kudos to our guide for educating this novice on how the wine is produced and stored. And we even got to sample some fresh grapes, which were delicious. At the end of the tour, we got to sample a handful of reds paired with finger foods. $125 per person for the experience. Oh, I almost forgot about the wedding. It was beautiful. It was held at the Beaulieu, I think that's pronounced right, Beaulieu Vineyard in Rutherford. A great day with family. So after leaving Calistoga, we had a few more days before heading home. It was back across the Golden Gate, not to stay in San Francisco, but in another coastal community, Half Moon Bay. It's a charming hamlet nestled up against the Pacific Ocean, the main street with lots of shops that make it an ideal day trip from San Francisco. And we decided to stay overnight and chose the Oceano Hotel with a nautical theme. We had a deluxe room for $369 a night plus tax. We had a great view of the harbor, too. The problem, a non-stop, and I mean non-stop, foghorn. It was a fitful night of sleep, and when I asked the desk the next morning about it, they said, "Oh, there's a white noise machine in your room and earplugs." Shame I didn't notice, but I'll warn you in advance. Food, you gotta go with seafood as you overlook the Pacific. We had 2 meals, both delicious. The first at Barber's Fish Trap. Gotta get there early. It is a tiny place. The line forms probably by 5:30. I had a crab louis salad and a delicious shrimp entree. The second meal at Sam's Chowder House, that was also quite good and also very busy. If you're looking for coffee and breakfast in the morning, head to the Press. That's just on the east side of Route 1. And you can tell it's the place to go. All the locals were there as the sun was coming up. Although driving around some places in the area, you'd never know if the sun was actually around as you were embedded in the fog. All in all, a great trip to California, one I'd like to do again sometime soon. I'm Map Dad, hoping to point your travels in the right direction.